I was astounded that all of the parts of the crater that I could see in the little nuclear crater were reproduced here on a giant scale, including right down to the pieces of melted material.
Around the crater, Gene found tiny beads of glass, rock that had been melted and sprayed out. He'd seen these too in Nevada. Some rocks would reveal a newly discovered mineral, kozite, an intensely squeezed form of quartz that no volcano is powerful enough to produce. In this microscopic sample was encoded a story of violent devastation wrought by a 100-foot asteroid hurtling so fast the atmosphere could not slow it down. Gene Shoemaker had found the fingerprint of impact. It was the first conclusive proof of an impact crater on Earth. An affront to centuries of scientific conviction, and a challenge even to the professor's devoted students. Dr. Susan Kiefer once studied with Gene in graduate school.
One day, Gene said, "I'm going to show you what an impact is." So he grabbed a fairly large rifle, and we...
This is my favorite rifle.
I don't want to see this rifle again after what happened that day.
You recognize this suit?
And then Gene told me to shoot the rock, which I did.
What happened is it just kicked.
The rifle came back and hit me in the nose and broke my glasses. And he looked at me and said, "Haven't you ever fired a gun before?" And I said, "No."
It's all right.
Here's Annie Oakley with her nemesis. The ideas that Gene was proposing not only made individual people uncomfortable, but at a gut level, whole schools of academic thinking. That was the battle that had to be fought against. And he, I feel, really did that almost single-handedly.
That's a nice looking crater.
Sue's lesson was simple but revolutionary. A relatively small object traveling at great speed will blast a huge hole upon impact and at the same time almost completely disintegrate. The mysteries of Tunguska and Meteor Crater were solved.
It came from over there, from that direction. We look up in the sky and we see a brilliant fireball that's being made by the asteroid or meteorite as it's coming in, and it gets brighter and brighter and brighter.
Gene's explanation of Meteor Crater was controversial, but the reason he studied craters in the first place seemed downright crazy. When he was 20 years old, more than a decade before the space program, Gene had a hunch America would soon go to the moon.
And why would you go to the moon? To study the moon. And who do you send to study the moon? You send a geologist, right? I was going to do whatever I could do to stand at the head of the line when the time came to be the geologist chosen to go to the moon. Can you imagine any greater adventure? I couldn't. I thought, well, I better learn something about craters.
Oh, Gene, that's great.
Look at that. I'm ready.
Gene dared confide his dream only to one person.
This was 1951. When we first met, I just thought she was the neatest gal I had ever met. That's it.
His wife, Carolyn, would become his lifelong accomplice in dreaming and scheming.
What attracted me to you?
What's that?
I think it's your enthusiasm about things. Gets this big smile, and you know he's just full of joy and enthusiasm for what he's talking about. Gene has a way of getting what he wants.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon.
In the early 60s, it seemed Gene might actually get what he wanted most.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy.
America
but
was
because
going to the moon, and he was already an expert on craters. There were many thousands of them on the near side of the moon alone. Gene believed they could yield tremendous knowledge about the role of impact in shaping not only the moon, but the Earth as well.
The moon is this slate that nobody's been erased. The record that we're seeing of bombardment, all of those craters that we see on the moon, are a record of the flux, of the hail of bullets coming by that's hitting both the Earth and the moon. If we want to see what a very fresh, big impact crater looks like when it's first formed, you look at the moon. That guy up there.
The people who ran the space program didn't look at the moon that way. They were pitted in a furious race. What mattered to them was getting there, not what could be learned once we arrived.
There's no question that NASA managers, NASA engineers, and indeed the astronauts themselves were not particularly interested in doing science in space. That was not their mission. They had signed up to beat the Russians to the moon. And the farthest thing from anybody's mind was actually doing some science and collecting some samples. But nevertheless, even though he was considered probably a weirdo by some in the engineering community, Gene did not give up in trying to push this idea that doing geology on the moon was important.
But geology on the moon was a hard sell. Few scientists thought Gene was right about the effect of impact on the Earth, much less the moon. Many believed lunar craters, too, were old volcanoes. Before Gene got to ride a rocket, he took a fateful trip in a more modest vehicle. The Shoemakers were on vacation in southern Germany. Gene was eager to come here to visit the Ries Basin, a 15-mile-wide depression that was universally believed to be an ancient volcano. Gene and Carolyn went strolling through the medieval town of Nördlingen in the heart of the crater. And there Gene came upon the largest geologic sample he'd ever found. St. George's Church, 500 years old, was built of local stone.
Just looking at the rock made me stop and say, whoa, wait a minute, what's this? I think I know what this is because I've seen something like that before.
The walls were riddled with glass formed from shocked and melted rock. Gene didn't need a microscope to know they contained kozite.
He was thrilled beyond words, and I was for him.
Just to go along and just admire all of this evidence for impact and the formation of a giant crater, and here it is incorporated into the cathedral, and it was just a very strange and interesting feeling, and saying, ah, yes, you know, we know what this is now.
The Ries is nearly 20 times as big as Meteor Crater.
It was the first big impact crater on the Earth, which we could prove was an impact crater. And that just changed the whole ballgame.
This was impact on an entirely different scale, brought on by a mile-wide boulder that drastically changed the landscape 15 million years ago. Suddenly, giant circular scars of impact were recognized all over the globe. Some were 200 miles wide.
Now we really understood there were big craters made on the Earth, and of course that meant those big craters we saw on the Moon, which I was also pretty sure were of impact origin. Now we had a way of saying, yes, it's happened on the Earth, the proof is here, but they're also on the Moon.
Gene had finally earned the credibility to convince NASA and the United States Geological Survey to establish a program aimed at doing geology on the Moon. Gene was appointed to run it.
Dr. Shoemaker, As the man in charge of the astrogeology program, what are you telling the astronauts to look for when they start exploring the moon?
Small features of the moon that will be close by around the landing site. And of course, we also want them to bring back a large number of samples.
Gene brought the Apollo astronauts to his favorite hole in the ground to teach them geology.
This seemed to me like a natural place to train astronauts who were going to go to the moon and look at craters. In fact, the best place in the world for it. You really get a feel of what a crater's like, and every one of them wanted to get on the moon. So they wanted to have a good idea of what they were going to get into.
For added realism, Gene's team blasted a replica of a lunar crater field not far from his home. There he participated in the design and testing of many of the vehicles and tools used on the moon. Gene's youthful dream was becoming a reality. His vindication as a scientist and his greatest adventure would soon be won.
Seconds and counting, guidance internal, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. We have ignition sequence start. Engines on, 5, 4, 3, 2. All engines running. Launch commit, liftoff. We have liftoff, 49 minutes past the hour. Houston, you are go for orbit. Go for orbit.
No, I'm not going to make it to the moon.
Just at the critical time when I could have been standing at the head of the line to go to the moon.
My adrenal cortex, my adrenal glands, stopped functioning, and I knew that would just knock me out of the running medically. When you had that idea in your head for 15 years, it doesn't go away right away.
Gene remained with the lunar program as one of its chief scientists. His dream of doing geology on the moon came true vicariously. His friend and protege, Dr. Jack Schmidt, flew aboard Apollo 17. As Gene watched, his theories about the effects of impact on the moon were confirmed live on TV.
Every rock you looked at, you pick up a rock or look at a large boulder, and there's a little pit there that's caused by a micrometeor impact. It became clear that the dominant geological process on the moon was meteor and cometary impact.
If I go down there, that thing's about 15 feet deep.
I was immensely pleased and proud of Jack, but of course I was wistful, too. I couldn't help feeling that there, but for that failed adrenal gland, go I.
We're getting in your bag here. Got it?
I used to have dreams that I got there. I got to the moon. I was there doing geology, even after, for a long time. I had to go do other things.
You saw me